Hi everyone, it's TTL back with another video for you, and today we are going to take a look at Red Dead Redemption 2. So we've tested a lot of the new cards for you. So we got a mixture of AMD and the Nvidias right the way up to the 2080 Ti. We've also tested in 1080, 1440 and 4K. If you want to go and have a look at the website, by the way, there's so much more going on there where we've actually done in-depth analysis with how many cores and resolution scaling and all of that sort of stuff. But on here, we are going to give you some hints and tips for slightly better optimizations, how you can actually turn the settings down a little bit but keep them looking pretty good. But also we're going to give you some very good visual head-to-heads between the cards to show you the FPS that you can be getting, and also, most handily as well, the sort of temperatures that you might be getting with your graphics card at the same time. So we are going to go straight into some benchmarking and then show you the hints and tips and things like how you can make the game look nice with the settings set to low and medium and that sort of thing later on. But one of the things I do want to cover right from the get-go with the game is the slider. Now with this slider, normally with a lot of other games you'd be thinking about like low, medium, high, ultra, and then that would all be nice and simple. You'd have those nice and easy presets for us to be able to set. But sadly, with this game, a bit like GTA 5, doesn't have any of that. Now, if you leave the slider in the middle, what that will essentially do is, depending on the resolution, the graphics card, it will pretty much change the settings to just make it play nice. So for a benchmarking perspective, it doesn't really make our lives very easy because there's not a lot of difference between them. Also, one of the things that we are having to do each time we make a change, whether it's resolution or changing that slider, we do have to clear all the defaults, set the setting, and then restart the game as well. So we've had to go through a lot of messing around to be able to do this, but this is something you guys at home are going to need to keep an eye on, because if you are making changes and stuff, especially with resolution, changing between them, the settings do not get cleared and you have to manually do that first. So keep that in mind when you are playing around and tweaking at home, because this is something that might catch you out, and it may look like your graphics card's suddenly running loads worse if you turn the resolution down, but it's just because you do need to clear those settings first. So please keep an eye on that. It's the right hand shift button that you're going to need to be pressing, and you are going to need to restart the game as well. Anyway, for our testing today, if you see any stuff, essentially default is in the middle and on that slider, but the most important one that we are going to be testing today is max, and that's moving the slider right to the outside, and that is having that slider to the outside is the fairest way that we can test between the graphics cards. But also what this does mean is yes, they are slightly more stressed out, but it's because there are so many settings underneath that slider, and if you go and put them all on ultra, then things are just not going to play at all. It cripples a 2080 Ti, and at no point with that slider does everything say medium or everything say high. So that's just a nice simple way. So we've got default in the middle, maxed right to the outside. Now you can see our test specs for the test rig. But then moving in first with the 5700, 1080 at max, so the slider right to the outside. And you can see you're getting quite a happy, healthy, above 60 frames per second with this. Occasional dip, but now we bring in the 2060 Super, and they're actually quite well matched for this. So for the 5700 to be matching the Super is actually quite a good thing, because I know the prices are a little bit more expensive with the green team, but again, as with a lot of this, I would say that the colours are slightly better on the 5700. Then we slide in the 5700 XT, big frames per second increase. You can see we're now comfortably starting with a 7 most of the time. We will show you graphs for all of these at the end of each, by the way, just so that you can pause. Then we come in with a 2070 Super, tiny bit quicker than the XT occasionally, but they're actually fairly well matched if you consider. But yet again, if you have a look, I'd say that the colours are just slightly nicer on the AMDs. And you need to remember these are at default. We've done no tweaking for the colours on the NVIDIAs, although a lot of people bring it up. Then in comes the 2080 Super. Big increase in price, reasonable increase in frames per second, averaging about 10 above. That's literally me just looking at the two numbers and thinking 10 above. Now, these were all filmed with the benchmark, but we've kind of like cut them in so that they're roughly side by side. It's a hell of a job. Then 2080 Ti, huge increase in price, but not a huge increase in usable FPS in reality. Don't forget this is with that maxed slider, but it is only 1080. So as the resolution goes up, that 2080 Ti is going to start to struggle. Especially when you consider that most of the graphics cards of the 2080 Ti are over £1,000, yet the 2080S, they're coming in a significant amount cheaper. It does make you wonder whether the extra money there would genuinely be worth it. Moving on to 1440. Now these are all still Macs and it's going to be all the same graphics cards again. So I am just going to let them play through because it's really more about the 4K that I'm personally interested in. I think you're going to be interested in it as well, but it will give you a break from me waffling and doing my incredibly bad commentating. Cue the music. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. So 4K, still maxed with that slider, and yes, the frames per second have come right down. 30 frames per second isn't going to be something a lot of you are going to be particularly happy about, but you do need to remember 4K is a huge ask for any graphics card in reality. I would personally say 1440p is going to be the sweet spot for most, but 30 frames per second is not to be sniffed at. And you need to remember this is just the slider maxed and not everything maxed as well. I'm starting to get the feeling that this game overall is going to have the kind of impact on graphics cards as Crysis has done, because you can really cripple the cards. As you can see, we've only really gone up about 6 frames per second going from the 5700 to the XT, and we're still getting low 30 frames per second dips in this town section, which is going to be the main part of the bulk of the gameplay of the game for a lot of you. 2070 Super comes in, still hitting those low 30s there. Did see a 31. Having the benchmark does make our lives a lot easier for being able to team these up as well, although it is an absolute ball ache to try and edit these all so close together. 2080 Super, still mid-30s there, but we are for the first time starting to see a 40 pop up every now and then. But in a second, the big boy will come in, and that starts with a 4 pretty much straight away. So 2080 Ti, 4K max slider with not everything completely maxed out, still down there hitting 3s and 4s for the first number is a huge thing when you think about it. And that's why I say this might be a really good benchmark for graphics cards going forward. So some of you may have worked out that when you use the slider to go to maximum, everything doesn't actually go to full ultra. So what happens if you do? Now, as you'll see here, we're wanging the settings up and we will manually go down through and change everything to ultra. We'll be going backwards in this, so you'll see it go low, medium, high, and then ultra. Some things, a bit like the water that we'll get to in a minute, don't actually go all the way, or the water that we've already done, water quality, doesn't have an ultra setting, so that's why that one's on high. But we'll go down through and manually set everything to as high as we possibly can do. The only thing that we're not changing is the resolution scaling above 100. Well, it's actually turned off. But we're working our way down through, and this is just so that you can see us wanging everything out, and there's no trickery or anything like that going. But when you do save it, gives you a warning setting, and don't forget we're using this on a 2080 Ti, goes to 9.196 gigabyte of available, well, it uses 9 gig of VRAM, and the 2080 Ti only has 8.8 gigabyte of VRAM, and we know it's 11, it's just a glitch. It's doing this with all of the Nvidia cards at the moment. It's slightly under reading them all, and we're assuming that there'll be a patch or a driver update in the future that will allow you to do it. But the shock is 33 gigabyte of VRAM is needed if you want to absolutely spank the game out, and I have a funny feeling we might be using this for graphics card testing for quite a while. Now, if you did go back into the settings and you wanted to play with that resolution scale, you can see before we were testing at 9 gig, which is technically more than the 8 it's got indicated, but it does go up to 33 gig. Now, I know it says, oh, and there's the alert. So the alert tells you that it won't basically let, and it's like, it actually won't let you apply it either. You can press OK, but it doesn't do anything. It just takes you back. It won't let you actually do anything with it. So I did say we were going to talk to you about how you can turn some settings down and keep things looking nice. Now, this game, you can compare it to Crysis a lot, because you can turn settings down and keep the game still looking okay. And what you can do is if you go down and turn everything to low, literally go down through, click, 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 everything to low. But the most important one to leave at ultra are the texture settings. And the reason why you leave it at ultra is because that's the one that's going to make the biggest difference in the way things look. But as long as your graphics card has 4 gigabyte of VRAM, you should be able to happily run the texture settings at ultra, or maybe just flick them down to high, but we'll go with ultra. And don't forget, we have turned this gameplay now down to everything low, but the one thing that we've left on ultra was that texture setting. Now, a lot of people are going to say it looks terrible when turned right down, and to be fair, if you turn the texture settings down, it does. Leave it up high though, and you can get a game that still looks quite nice, but also you can crank that resolution up more. Now, if this was me personally, I would still have it on 1440p and turn some of the other settings up. But this is just to give you guys a visual representation on how you can tweak the game, have some of it turned down lower, but it actually does still end up looking quite nice and is more than playable enough. especially for those of you out there that have got a lower end budget rig. This is going to be a really good tip for you to have a tweak and a play around with it. And just don't forget, if you have any issues and you get crashes or it's not launching properly because some of the settings that you may have changed, just go into the game folder. I'll bring up the B-roll so that you can have a look. It's in my documents, and then you go through and you find the config file for the game, and then what you're going to have to do is just delete that config file. And then if you do delete it, the game is likely to go through some like verification stuff again, so it's going to rebuild some stuff. Again, lovely B-roll is going to come up. But it will do that, but this will reset all the settings in the game and you'll be able to launch it again quite easily. So don't forget, you can click through to the OC3D website. There are a lot more graphs and a lot more information over there if you'd like to go and take a look. Also, we'd love your feedback in the comments. Click through, and also if you do want to subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell, because that's going to be able to give you a chance to get the notifications when we do put new reviews up. We have a lot coming for you over the next few weeks, so you might want to stay tuned. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well, both under OC3D and Tiny Tom Logan. Thanks very much for staying tuned. This is Tiny Tom Logan out.